Let me just brief you about the introduction of these online training series. The online training series that we have for our softwares Midas Civil and Midas Gen is an initiative of Midas Soft to train the clients about our software, and we would be having a series of these training sessions, and we will be talking about a specific type of analysis or a specific type of structure or a specific type of bridge in these online trainings. This is an experiment of Midas IT, and we would like you guys to give your feedback on the training. So after the training, if you feel like some points has to be included or some point shouldn't be included in the training, then please be free to give us any feedback about it. So let me start with the training now. First of all, I'll talk about the introduction to finite element based geotechnical analysis. As you can see on your screens, I have these slides for finite element based geotechnical analysis, and after this introduction to finite element analysis, I'll take you to Midas GTS and we will model a structure and we will see the results on for the analysis. So let me first talk about the finite element based geotechnical analysis. So first of all, in which cases is a finite element analysis necessary? As we know that we can obtain the analysis results by hand calculations, by applying some approximations, or we can consider certain assumptions and then we can obtain certain results that we want for our structures. But why finite element analysis is important? First of all, if we have a very complex problem or very complex geometry, then it virtually becomes impossible to solve or to analyze it by hand, and we must need a finite element tool for such kind of a geometry or such kind of a problem. And if we want to perform complex soil structure interaction, then again we need to have a finite element tool. With the help of a finite element tool, we can do complex stress pore pressure coupling analysis, and we can also consider the inference of construction stage analysis. As we know that these days we are constructing very tall buildings which require very solid foundation, and the foundation is constructed in stages and we need to perform the excavation before we can construct the foundation, and we need to see how the construction stages will affect the excavation. For that we need to have a finite element tool so that we can model the construction stages and obtain the effect of the construction schedule of construction. Finally, if you want to perform higher order analysis such as seismic or vibration analysis, then we must have a geotechnical finite element analysis tool. So let's discuss the type of applications of finite element analysis to geotechnical problems. As you can see here, we can use finite element analysis for settlements and bearing capacity of footings and piles. We can do staged construction analysis of embankments for highways and railroads. We can also perform the construction analysis for excavation, as I just talked about. We can also do the design of soil reinforcement systems. Sometimes we need to provide some reinforcement to the soils in terms of geotextiles or geogrids, and if you want to see virtually how they will behave, you can use a finite element tool. Then you can perform the slope stability analysis. You can see what will be the stability of a particular embankment, of a particular slope in various construction stages. And finally, if you want to analyze a tunnel or mine construction, you can again use finite element analysis. So these are the different areas where you can use finite element analysis pertaining to the geotechnical problems. But apart from these problems, also you can use finite element analysis in a lot of places. Now let me first talk about the strong features of finite element analysis, why finite element analysis is so popular among geotechnical engineers. We can virtually model any shape, whether it is 2D or 3D. If you want to perform 3D analysis, we can model 3D shapes. If you want to perform 2D analysis, we can model 2D shapes. As an example, if you want to obtain the seepage analysis or the seepage results in a dam, you can go for the 2D cross section at the mid of the dam and you can obtain the seepage results. And if you want to go for a 3D modeling of the same, you can do that. Secondly, specific elements to model slender structural members such as springs, beams or plates can be modeled in finite element software and they can be analyzed. Then there are very type of analysis types available, and you can do the structural statics or dynamic analysis. You can simulate the groundwater flow. The steady and transient seepage analysis can be performed. You can perform the slope stability analysis, and finally you can perform the advanced nonlinear soil analysis, because as we know that the soil models that we have for analysis, they are generally nonlinear in behavior, and with the help of a finite element analysis you can model the nonlinear properties of the soil and you can analyze these properties in a finite element software. So here we are talking about Midas GTS, which is the finite element software of Midassoft. These are some of the requirements of a good finite element analysis. We should have a sound theoretical understanding of the underlying mechanics behind the finite element analysis. Finite element modeling supposes making choices founded both on knowledge and experience. So it's not that you modeled a structure, you meshed it, and you performed the analysis and you expect to obtain the correct results. Meshing, modeling should be precise, the mesh size should be optimum, and then only you can expect to obtain correct results. So if you want to use the finite element software as a black box, it will almost result in very erroneous predictions. So using the finite element software without the basic understanding of finite element analysis and without the basic understanding of the geotechnical analysis would be a disaster. And that's why before I go on to the modeling of a structure in GTS, I want to tell you some basics of finite element analysis. So I have summed up some of the steps for finite element modeling. So as you can see, first we need to set up a sign convention and a unit system. Then we will choose what type of analysis do we want to do. Then we will choose the dimension of the finite element analysis, that is, what will be the mesh size. Then we will choose the different type of elements that we want to use for modeling of our structure, and then finally we will design the mesh and we perform the analysis to obtain the results. In Midas GTS we have chosen the following convention for stress and strain. The compression is considered to be negative and the tension is considered to be positive. And for consistency, the pore pressure is defined negative for hydrostatic compression. So these are the basic assumptions behind the finite element analysis in Midas GTS. These are the different types of analysis that we can perform. We can perform static analysis, be it linear static or non-linear static. We can perform construction stage analysis, seepage analysis such as steady state or transient analysis for seepage can be performed. We can perform stretch seepage semi-coupled analysis, slope stability analysis, consolidation analysis, and the dynamic analysis such as eigenvalue analysis, a response spectrum analysis, and time history analysis can be performed. Now these are the description of individual type of analysis. As you can see, in static analysis we can perform linear static analysis in which we can use the elastic properties of the material, or we can define the non-linear properties of the material. If you want to define the elastoplasticity, we have different material models available such as von Mises, Tresca, Drucker-Prager, Moore column, modified CAM-CLAY method, etc. If we want to consider the hardening behavior, we have modified Moore column method, and apart from these you can also define the nonlinear elasticity, the nonlinear elastoplastic behavior, and you can also model the interfaces. Sometimes we need to model certain interfaces between soil and the structure, or between two different types of soil to consider the shear, and here the interface materials prove to be very useful. This is very simple example of construction stage analysis, and you can see that first we perform the stress initialization analysis. So we have a chunk of soil, and because of the self-weight of the soil it will be under stressed condition. So first of all we need to know what is the stress in that condition. Then we add or remove elements for performing the construction stage analysis, and in this way we perform the construction stage analysis. For seepage analysis, as you can see, we can define whether the soil is saturated, or the partially saturated soil can also be modeled. You can define what kind of seepage analysis do you want to do, whether it is a steady state regime or a transient regime. So you can define whether you want to perform the seepage analysis for steady state or transient state in saturated or partially saturated soil. And you can do the coupled analysis. You can do stress seepage semi-coupled analysis, and here I have listed the steps in which it is done. As you can see, first we perform the seepage analysis, or the seepage stage is defined, and we generate the pore pressure results. These pore pressure results are then assigned as a mechanical load for the construction stage, and then we obtain the effective stress results. So I'm just listing out the different procedures of this kind of analysis, and in further subsequent training sessions we will be talking about one of these kind of analysis, and then we will talk in detail what all parameters have to be defined, how you can model the structure, how you can obtain the results. Talking about the slope stability analysis, you have to apply the self-weight or other superimposed dead load, whatever you have on your structure, and you can use the C-Fire reduction method for determination of factor of safety. Now let's talk about the different types of elements that are available for performing the finite element analysis. So as you can see, the plane strain material element can be defined, the axisymmetric material can be defined, and plate element or the three-dimensional element such as solid element can be defined. And here is a list of the type of analysis that you can do with these type of elements. So let's talk about the different types of elements one by one here. Talking about the plane strain element, what are the different assumptions for the plane strain element as far as the finite element analysis is concerned. So the plane strain element will be a one-dimensional element, and it's very large compared to the other two. So we have the three dimensions in a particular element, and in the plane strain element one dimension is very large as compared to the other two dimensions, and hence the element is, the loads and the boundary conditions are perpendicular and independent of z, and the displacement in z direction is considered to be zero in a way. And the application examples are continuous strip footings. So if you have continuous strip footings for your structure, then you can use the plane strain element. If you have long straight dikes or embankments, then you can use this type of element. And you can also use this type of element for long straight tunnels, mines and wells. Talking about the axisymmetric type of elements, here are the assumptions for this type of element for finite element analysis. The geometry, boundary conditions and initial stresses have a rotational symmetry around the axis of symmetry, which can be y, as you can see here. In this case it is y, and the application examples can be circular footings, cylindrical triaxial cell specimens, single piles, or the vertical well. So if you want to use the axisymmetric type of element, you should know what are the different assumptions associated with this type of element and what are the different application areas where you can use this type of an element for performing the finite element analysis. For two-dimensional seepage analysis, as you can see here, different assumptions and the application examples where you can do this kind of a seepage analysis. If we have long straight dams with toe drain, we can just model a particular cross section of the dam and we can see the seepage effect, or we can see the results for the seepage such as flow path or the flow quantity, and the seepage analysis of long straight slopes or earth retaining structure, such as if you have a canal and you want to do the seepage analysis on one of the banks, then you can use two-dimensional seepage analysis for obtaining the seepage results. And you can also use this type of analysis for dewatering of long straight excavations. Talking about the three-dimensional analysis, all other cases that do not fall under the 2D models, we need to perform the three-dimensional analysis. You can model the out-of-plane loading on 2D geometry. You can model any type of structure in 3D, and you can obtain non-aligned initial stresses. The typical examples are pad footing, inclined piles or group of piles, or tunnel intersections. Sometimes it might happen that you want to erect a building, a very tall building, and the foundation goes deeper into the ground, and we have some tunnels beneath the ground. So what you need to perform a three-dimensional analysis so that you can check what is the effect of the new building on the existing tunnel. So in this type of analysis, it is very important to perform the three-dimensional analysis. And these are the different library of elements that you can choose from. You can choose solid elements, structural elements such as the beams, concrete, reinforcing elements, etc., or you can model certain interfaces. Talking about the type of elements, as you can see in the linear elements, we have one node at each corner, and the linear variation of displacement is considered if you want to obtain the displacement in between two nodes. As you can see here, these are the different linear elements that we have. So if we talk about node number 1 and 3, there is no intermediate node which is associated with this type of element. But when we talk about the quadratic elements, they have additional mid nodes, and if you want to obtain displacements, the quadratic variation is done for obtaining the displacement. For the stresses and strains, we do the linear variation, and the typical characteristic of this type of elements is that they have curved sides, as you can see from the diagram. Again, these are the different structural elements, and these are the finite elements that you can use to model them. So if we talk about, let's say, anchor bolts, you can model them using the truss elements, or if you want to model them using 3D elements, you can model them using 3D elements too. So now let's talk about the interface. As I said before, sometimes we need to model the interface between two types of grounds, or structure and the ground. And the most typical example of such an interface is between the piles and the adjacent ground. So you can see that these are the places where we need to model the interfaces. So we can model the interface elements at soil structure boundary, and we can also use interface elements on plane of expected local shear failure. As you can see in this example, if we apply a pressure load on this element, it's gonna puncture into the ground, and here we can define some interface elements to capture that effect. As we know that the crux of finite element analysis is how the meshing has been done. Higher density to capture steep stress gradients and plastic strain localization must be done. As you can see here, this is a tunnel opening and I want to perform the finite element analysis on this type of tunnel opening. What I'll do the fine meshing near the tunnel opening, and as I move out from the tunnel opening, the meshing should be coarser. So where the stress change is very great, is very steep, I need fine meshing, and as I move away from the location of the stress localization, I can have coarser meshing. But before we can analyze the structure, we need to make sure that the meshing that we have done in the structure or in the model is correct or not. So here in Midas GTS we have provided certain model checking and mesh quality checking features where you can check several type of ratios such as aspect ratio, etc. You can check the skew angle and you can check what is the twist or the collapse tetras, etc. And you can make sure whether the meshing that you have done for your model is correct or not. Now let's talk about the boundary of the model. I want to model a foundation, but I don't know till how much extent should I model my ground so that I can capture the stress change in the adjacent ground. So for the further few slides, I'll be talking about the boundaries of the finite element model. So here you can see that if it is a shallow foundation, then we can model the ground up to 5 times the width of the footing and 10 times the width of the footing in the ground direction, and we can see how the stress changes. Similarly for deep foundations, these are the different empirical dimensions that we use for modeling the finite elements. If it is L long into the ground, then we can model after the element has ended. I have modeled the ground twice times L or 2 times T, whichever is greater, and similarly in the ground direction we can model it up to twice the length or 30 times the diameter, and it has not only to be modeled on the right side but on the left side and into and outside the screen also. Similarly for unsupported excavations, these are the typical ground sizes that we should model. If we are doing the excavation for D depth along the horizontal plane, we can model the ground up to 10 times the D, the depth of the excavation, and in the vertical distance, the distance how further we should go into the ground, we can go up to 4 times the depth of the excavation. Similarly for the gravity walls, these are the dimensions that we must follow for creating our finite element model. For diaphragm or SPW walls, these are the dimensions. For embankments, if we have an embankment h of h height and the length of embankment is L, then we should go beyond 3L and 5H in the gravity direction to model the whole ground. If it is a shallow tunnel, these are the different these are the boundaries of the model that you must create in the finite element analysis. If D is the diameter of the tunnel or depth of the tunnel intersection, tunnel cross section, then you can go up to 10D on the top of the tunnel and up to 5D below the tunnel cross section, and in the X or the Y direction you can go up to 6 times the depth of the tunnel cross section. For deep tunnels, these are the assumption. If it is very deep, then we consider the ground above and below the tunnel opening to be symmetric, and that's why we take only 5 times the depth of the tunnel cross section. And if we model the ground above the crown of the tunnel opening to 5 times the depth of the tunnel cross section, then we expect to obtain that the stress will be almost zero after 5t. So these were some of the assumptions that we need to take into account while we perform the finite element analysis in any of the finite element tool. It's not only for GTS, but whatever finite element analysis tool that you want to use, these are the basic assumptions, the basic considerations, and the basic things that you must keep in mind if you want to obtain a correct solution. So that was all about the introduction to finite element analysis. It was a very brief introduction, but considering the time we have for the training, I tried to shorten it up. So let us now move to Midas GTS and let us model a very simple structure in Midas GTS, and let us see how we can use the modeling, meshing and analysis tools of Midas GTS as a finite element analysis software for obtaining the results. So these will be the contents of my training for Midas GTS. I'll be talking about the overview of Midas GTS, what all can you do in Midas GTS. Then I'll be talking about the analysis types, what type of analysis can be performed in Midas GTS. Then I'll talk about the material models, the geometry modeling, the modeling features that are available in Midas GTS, the mesh generation features that are available in Midas GTS, the different types of boundaries that you can assign in Midas GTS, the load conditions, the analysis results, and then we will talk about some of the post-processing features in Midas GTS. So let's start with the overview first. As we know that Midas GTS is a 3D finite element analysis software which is generally used for geotechnical structures. Midas GTS works on a single platform, that is, you can model the structure, you can mesh the structure, and you can obtain the results at the single platform or at the same platform. You don't have to model the structure at a different platform, then extract the mesh out of it, put it into the solver and obtain the results at a different platform. In Midas GTS, you can do all these three things in the same platform. So you can use Midas GTS for tunnel analysis, tunnel exits, tunnel junction. If the tunnels are crossing, you can see how the stress changes or how the stress profile is developed due to two tunnels. You can do two arch tunnels analysis, cam tunnel analysis, and if there is a tunnel with a fault plane which is crossing a fault plane, you can perform the analysis in that type of situation also. Then you can perform the analysis for groundwater and seepage. You can consider steady state or the transient flow analysis. Saturated zones to unsaturated zones by Darcy's principle can be considered. Talking about the effective stress analysis with stress, seepage and coupling, you can do this kind of analysis in Midas GTS. And you can also do groundwater and seepage analysis. Excavations and temporary structures, if you want to perform excavation analysis in Midas GTS, that is supported. If you want to use some temporary structures for excavation in the construction stages, then you can use that also. And finally, you can perform earthquake, blast and vibration analysis. Eigenvalue analysis, response spectrum analysis and time stay analysis are supported. And most recently we have included a one-dimensional ground response analysis and 2D equivalent linear dynamic analysis. So that was all about the overview to Midas GTS. What are the different type of analysis that you can do in Midas GTS? Now let me talk about the analysis types in Midas GTS. You can perform static analysis. You can consider the nonlinear behavior of soils. You can perform elastoplastic analysis. Stress, seepage, coupled analysis can be performed. Construction stage analysis can be performed. Drain, undrained analysis can be performed. And you can also perform the consolidation analysis. Talking about the seepage analysis again, you can consider the steady state seepage or the transient seepage analysis can be performed. You can perform dynamic analysis such as eigenvalue, response spectrum, etc. And you can also perform slope stability analysis for 2D and 3D structures. You can use the shear strength reduction method, or you can use stress analysis for limit equilibrium for determination of slope stability analysis. Now let's talk about the different element types that are available in Midas GTS. In Midas GTS we have the line type of elements such as truss, embedded truss. We have beam type of elements, tension only type of elements or compression only type of elements can be modeled, and you can model the pile element. Talking about the 2D elements, you can model plate, shotcrete lining, etc. You can model the plane stress element, plane strain element can be modeled. Talking about the solid elements, you can model any type of solid that you want to model, and you can also model some other type of elements such as point springs, matrix springs, or you can model the interface elements. If you want to model the geogrid elements, you can model the geogrid elements, and you can connect different types of meshes together using the rigid links or elastic links where you can specify certain type of stiffness. Now let's talk about the different material models that are available in Midas GTS. In Midas GTS we have these many kinds of material models that you can select from. You can perform the linear elastic analysis. The linear elastic model can be used for performing the linear analysis, and its behavior will be linear. The Moore column or the modified Moore column method can be used for elastoplastic behavior. Similarly, you can use Tresca, von Mises, Drucker-Prager, etc. You can also use Cam-Clay or modified Cam-Clay model, strain softening model for strain softening behavior can be defined. You can also use the interface materials which can be the elastoplastic. You can define the friction and the cohesion, and you can also use a user supplied material. So this is a list of material models that are available in Midas GTS which you can use to define the materials in your model. Now let's talk about the graphical user interface of Midas GTS. Midas GTS provides the user with extensive graphic features that can be used for modeling and obtaining results very simply. I'll be talking about the graphical user interface of Midas GTS, and for that I'll take you directly to the program. So let me open Midas GTS now. So this is how the work window of Midas GTS looks like. As you can see, on the right hand side it is the model view. So whatever you model, it will appear here. On the left hand side we have a works tree. The works tree would tell you what all work have you done in the model so far. So let us first see some of the basic graphical user interface features of Midas GTS. Let's say I want to create a curve. I can create a curve on work plane. By work plane we mean this grids, as you can see. If you want to change your work plane, you can change your work plane to any plane you want. So let's say I want to change my work plane to XY axis. So here I can change my work plane to XY axis. So it's very simple. You just have to go to geometry work plane and you can move the work plane to any plane you want. You can define a point, you can define a plane using 3 points, or you can define the plane using the normal type. If you want to create the curve, let's say I want to create a line. So this is the line that I have created. Let's say I want to create a solid. So this is the solid that I have created. Now if you go to the works tree, in the curve you will find that there is a line, and you can select the line from here. You can also delete the lines. So here you can select the solid from here, or you can select the line, or whatever you want to do. If you want to hide a part of model, let's say I want to hide this solid, I can just uncheck this button and the solid will be hidden. So here this is the solid that we have, and if I want to hide the solid, then I can hide the solid. If I want to see the solid, I can just check on the solid. If I want to delete anything, I can just hit the delete button and then it will be deleted. So here you can check on delete and you can delete it. Also you can hit the delete button on the keyboard and you can delete it. So this is how you can use the graphical user interface of Midas GTS. When you perform the mesh the mesh appears inside the mesh bar of Midas GTS, and you can check on any mesh which you want to see. If you want to check off the mesh, you can check it off. The various options can be accessed from the worktree. Let's say I want to define a material. What type of material do I want to define? If I want to define a structure material or a ground material, I can just double click here and I can define a material. So once I click on add, the material definition dialog box will appear. I can give it a name. I can specify the properties, and once I click OK, you will see that one concrete material has been defined under the structures field. If I want to define the ground type of material, I can go to the ground material. I can define various parameters. I can select the constitutive model associated with this material, and once I define it, it will appear under the ground material. So in a way, you get to know what different materials have been defined, and let's say you want to select the materials, the part of the model where this kind of material is assigned. You can just right click and you can select show assigned. So whichever mesh where this element or this material will be assigned will be shown. If you want to hide it, you can hide it. Apart from this works tree, you can access any menu from the menu bar. If I want to define the material from the menu bar, I can go to model property and I can define whatever parameter do I want to define. If I want to define the boundary, I can define the boundary from here. So you can access various options either from the works tree, or you can access the options from the top menu bar here. And once you are very much familiar with Midas GTS, you can use the quick options, such as you can see here, these are the different quick options that you can choose from. And if I want to perform meshing, I can just click on this option, and the meshing, I can select the auto meshing or map meshing, etc. So in this way, you can use the graphical user interface of Midas GTS for modeling any type of structure that you want. Now let me go to the presentation back, and with time we will create a model, and then we can see more detailed graphical user interface of Midas GTS. So this is the model that I want to create today. It is a 3D excavation model, and we will have the excavation in certain construction stages, and we will see how the stress, strain, etc. changes with the construction stages. So let's talk about the geometric modeling now. In Midas GTS, you can create the modeling by creating the solid, then creating the curves, and then you can combine the curves together. You can fuse them, you can cut the curves, you can trim the solids from anywhere you want, but that is the primitive way of modeling. In Midas GTS, you can also import the geometry from various type of import files. As you can see, the step file, which is standard for the exchange of product model data, we support this type of import. So if you want to import this type of file, you can import it in Midas GTS. The import is supported at file import. So when you go to the import, you can see there are several features available, and you can select any one of them to import any kind of file. Then you can import the IGES file, initial graphics exchange specification format file, and in a single project you can import multiple files. You can import multiple step files, or you can import multiple IGES file. If you want to import BREP, which is boundary representation format of file, then you can import it. And if you want to import AutoCAD drawings, AutoCAD files, then that is also supported. You can not only import the two-dimensional drawing, but if you want to import the three-dimensional drawing, then it is also supported. So now let's talk about the primitive geometric modeling features that are available in Midas GTS. So the first step is modeling a curve. Here you can see that in Midas GTS we have different options. If I want to create a curve on the work plane, as I said before, what a work plane is. A work plane is, as you can see the grids here, this is the work plane. So if you want to define a circle, line, wire, etc. on a work plane, you can do that. If you want to create the element on the 3D coordinate system, then you can do that also, and there are certain features associated with the curve modeling that you can use. Now let me go to the program and I'll show you some of the curve modeling features, because I want to model the excavation model in front of you. So I will model the curve accordingly. So first we will model the wireframe so that we can use that wireframe to create the solids. So I'll create the wireframe in 3D. So I've selected the wire selection option, and now I'll create the wireframe. So I'm entering the coordinates, and as you can see on your right, there is a curve which is moving, and it shows us how the wireframe has been modeled. So here you can see that, let me switch off this grid this thing so that it becomes easy to see. So as you can see here, I have modeled a rectangular wire. Now I want to model one more wire inside it so that I can model the actual excavation site. So as of now, I have modeled the outer periphery of my model, and now I want to go inside and I want to model the excavation area. For that, again, I'll create the wireframes, and I will define the coordinates for the wireframe. And as you can see on the right, the red line appears and it shows us how the modeling has been done. So here you can see that I have modeled two different wireframes, and I'll be using them to model the solids. Now I'll model the point so that I can model the piles. For modeling a point, I'll go to the point feature and I'll go to the create point feature, and I'll put in the coordinates for the point. So as you can see here, I have modeled one point. Now I want to create one more point so that I can create a pile. For that, I will go to the transform feature. I'll go to translate. I'll select the point which I want to translate. I'll select the direction in which I want to translate, and I want to translate it by 10.3 meters because the depth of my file or the length of my file is 10.3 meters. And you can see the preview how it would look like, and once I click OK, the line will be modeled. So these are the 2 points that have been modeled as of now, and we will connect these 2 points by a line element so that we can create a pile. So I'll go to curve and I'll create a line on 3D, and I will select these 2 nodes, and this way I have created a file. So I've created a file so far, and I will be translating these files in the X and the Y direction so that I can create multiple files. But before that, let me talk about some other modeling features that are available in Midas GTS. For creation of a surface model, we have different type of faces which are available. A Coons face creates a three-dimensional curved surface which are bounded by 2 or 4 boundary edges. So if there are 2 or 3 or 4 edges are selected and all edges must be closed, the curved surface will be dependent on the shape formed by the edges. So here you can see that I have 4 different edges and I want to create a Coons face. So the program doesn't know the profile of the surface inside this plane. The program just knows the outer periphery, how the profile of outer periphery looks like, and then program interpolates in between and it will try to make the actual surface. So as you can see here, it will interpolate between these 2 lines and it will try to create a balanced surface. So in such a case, it will create a plane or the curved surface which connects the 2 edges in the shortest path. So here it will connect the 2 edges in the shortest path, but before connecting the 2 edges, it will divide the edges into certain smaller fragments so that it is not a linear curve but it becomes a curvilinear. So as you can see, the shortest path between these two lines will be a straight line, but it's curved here because the program itself divides the wireframe into several small wires so that the curve can be smooth. Now talking about a NURBS face, the NURBS face creates a three-dimensional curved spacing by filling in a space bounded by and closed in by a number of edges. So here there are arbitrary curves as you can see, and you can define the inner constraint, that how the inside of the surface looks like, and then the program will generate a surface for you. So here I have selected the four curves. I can select the points inside and I can create the surface. Now let me go to the program and let me show you how you can define the surface. So when you go to the create surface option available inside the geometry option, you can select the Coons face, the NURBS face. So when you select the NURBS face, you have to select the boundary edges, then you will select the tangent boundary edges. It's optional, and if you want to define the points on the curves or the degrees, then you can define inside. And if you want to define the inner constraint, so let's say you have defined, I want to select these four edges, and the surface, it's like a dome structure, so I'll have certain constraint inside that will tell the program that it is a dome kind of a structure. So I can select the inner constraint, and based on the inner constraint it will generate a NURBS face for me. The plane face is a face, it's a very simple face. It creates a two-dimensional plane face by filling the space bounded by or closed in by a number of edges. As you can see here, it's a plane face. You just have to select the different edges and it will just create a plane face. So if there are certain aberrations inside the surface, the program will not will neglect those aberrations and it will just create a two-dimensional plane face. Talking about the grid face, in Midas GTS you can define the grid and you can define the elevation of different points on the grid, and Midas GTS will generate a grid patch or a grid face for you. So here you can see that there's a grid and I've defined the elevation of certain points, and Midas GTS has created the surface for me. Finally, the point face. The point face is a surface that can be created using a vertex cloud. Now here you can see that I have defined the vertex which are inside my surface or which are on my surface, and Midas GTS will generate a surface for me. So here you can go to the site, you can obtain the data from surveying, you can obtain the elevation of certain points, and you can punch in the points in Midas GTS and you can generate a surface. Now talking about the advanced modeling features that you can use in Midas GTS, you can use the Sew feature, which creates a shell from selected independent surfaces. As you can see, this is an example of Sew. So these are different independent surfaces and I've created one element out of it. You can trim two surfaces, you can fuse two surfaces. If you want to trim surfaces by curve, let's say you have a surface and you want to create a fault plane in that surface. So you can model the fault plane using the curve, and then you can trim the curve using the surface, the curve feature, and you can also imprint the points on the surface, etc. Now talking about the manipulations in solid modeling, you can use the trim modeling feature or the divide solid feature. The difference between the trim and the divide is that the trim will cut the surface above it or below it as defined by the user, but the divide will keep both sides of the surface. So as you can see here, I have a solid and I have two different surfaces, and I trimmed the solid with the upper surface, so it has deleted the solid above it, and using the divide feature I have divided the lower part of the solid, but the program has divided the solid into two different solids and it has kept both the solids. So this is the difference between trim and divide solid. Now embed solid. Embed solid is a tool which tells the program that the two solids which are present at the same location, they are independent entities. So let's say we have a solid made of let's say it's the soil. We have modeled the solid using a soil, and there is a different type of soil in a certain patch. So what we can do, we can embed the smaller solid into the bigger solid, and in this way we can use the embed feature to do this kind of modeling. Then you can create from shell to solid. Let's say you have a shell and you want to create a solid out of it, then you can extrude it in a location to create the solid. Finally, there are certain generator features which are available in Midas GTS and they can be used for modeling. As you can see here, you can extrude a profile which can be either face, wire or edge into a solid, shell or face. So here you can see that we have a 2D plane and I've extruded the 2D plane in a direction to create a solid. Similarly, I can use the revolve feature and I can revolve a profile to create a solid. I can use the loft feature and I can model the tapered profile using the loft feature, and the sweep feature. As you can see the example of sweep feature, I have a cross section of the tunnel and I have a curve guiding the guide curve along the tunnel, so I can sweep the cross section of the tunnel in that guide curve to model the whole tunnel length. Now let me go to the program and we will model the structure here, and we will see the different features that we can use for modeling this kind of a structure. So first of all, I will use the translate feature and I will translate the files in different directions so that I can obtain different files. So I'll go to the top view. I have selected the file which I already generated and I will copy it 5 times. Let me select the direction. So here I've selected the direction and the preview. This is how it looks like. So this is how I'm copying the files from this location to other locations to model other files. So, and now I'll copy the files from this location and I'll translate them in X direction to model the whole set of files. So again I'll go to the transform translate feature. I have selected the elements already. I'll select the direction and I will uniformly copy it 5 times in X direction. As you can see, let's see from the top view, and this is how it looks like. And once I click on OK, as you can see, the files have been modeled. So in a way you can model the files or any of the structure using these kind of features. Now let us create the solids by using the extrude feature in this model. So first of all, I'll go to generator feature extrude and I will select the extrusion profile as wire and I will extrude it in Z direction to create my first solid, and I extrude it with a length 3 meters and I'll give it a name excavation 1. So here I'll check on the option solid so that I can create a solid, and when I see the preview, this is how the extrusion will take place. Now I'll extrude the face to create more solids for different layers of excavation. And this is how it looks like. Now I'll create the solids for my raft and the embedded plate by using the extrude feature again. And this is how it looks like. Click on apply, and now I'll create one more solid for plate. So I've selected the bottom, so I'll select the bottom face and I'll select the extrusion direction as a Z direction and I'll extrude it by 2 meters to create the solid for plate. So this is how it looks like, and as you can see, I've created 4 solids. I can see the 4 solids here, and since the name of this solid is excave 1, which should be excave 2, so I'll just right click or I'll just click F2 and I'll rename it as excavation 2. So this is how I created 4 solids. Now I want to create the solids for surrounding soil, so I'll go to geometry, generator feature, and I'll again use the extrude feature to extrude the surrounding solid, the surrounding wireframe to create the solid. So this is the solid for topsoil. This is how it looks like. Then I'll create the solid for midsoil, and I'll select the extrusion profile as the bottom face and the direction as the z-axis again, and I'll extrude it by 15 meters because it is 15 meters deep, and I'll name it as midsoil. This is how it looks like. And finally we'll create the bottom soil by again extruding the bottom face of midsoil, and I'll give it a name bottom soil. It is 20 meter deep, and this is how it looks like. So as of now we have created all the solids that we need. Now I'll give individual color to different solids so that I can distinguish between them easily. So I'll go to geometry, shape color. I'll select all the shapes, and I'll give different colors to different solids. So here you can see that I have provided different colors to different solids. I'll increase the transparency so that I can see clearly where are the different solids. And then we have certain modifier features such as fillet. You can create the fillet as you can see here, chamfer, offset, draft, shell, local prism, and you can use these features to manipulate the solid modeling. In Midas GTS we have included the Boolean operations also. So you can take the fusion of two solids, you can cut two solids, or you can take the common out of it. So all the Boolean operations that we use in mathematics, they can be used in Midas GTS for modeling. So let us see where we can use the Boolean operation in our model. Now let me tell you something about this model. If you see the topsoil, it's a continuous solid, and if you see the excavation one, it is inside the topsoil. So at this location, excavation 1, we have two solids, and we don't want that. We need to have only one solid at one location. So for that we'll use the Boolean operation to cut this solid from the rest of the solid. So I'll go to geometry, Boolean operation, I'll go to cut, and I will select the Boolean master, which will be the topsoil, and the tool will be the excavation 1, and I'll click on apply. Similarly, I will select the Boolean master as the midsoil, and I will select excavation 2, excavation 3 raft, and the embedded plate as the cut objects, and I'll click on OK. And in this way I have cut down the different solids so that there is only one solid at a particular location. Now if I see the solids, excavation 1 is like this and the topsoil is like this. So now we don't have duplicate solids at different locations. So this completes the solid modeling. Now we will define the several properties that are required for this model. But before that, let me talk about some other geometric modeling features that are available in Midas GTS. Then you can also extract elements to create independent shapes by extracting sub-shapes such as solid, shell, face, wire, edge, point, etc. So if you have a solid, you can explode or extract the face out of the solid, or you can explode the solid into sub-levels. Like you can explode a solid into several faces, you can explode the face into lines, etc. And once you are done with the modeling, you might require to check the modeling. In Midas GTS you can check the duplicates. If the models are duplicated at certain locations, the program will show you that this part of the model is duplicated. So let me check the duplicacy in my model. So I'll go to check, I'll check for duplicates, and once I click on apply, you will see that there are certain duplicates inside the model which are duplicate faces. And duplicate faces are required because a single plane will be shared by the top soil and the bottom soil, and if I uncheck the duplicate faces, let's say I just want to see the duplicate wires, I can just see the duplicate wires. As you can see here, these are the duplicate wires which are common to two different areas. So in this way you can check whether the modeling that you have done is correct or not by using the check modeling features. Now let me define the material and the attributes that will be used for meshing. The material, as I said before, can be defined in the property option inside model main menu field. You can define the material, property or attribute. For defining the material, as I said before, you can define either the structure type of material or the ground type of material. The definition of material is a mechanical process, so I will just use the materials that I have used in my previous model, and I'll import them in my GTS so that I can use those materials in this project. Now I'll define the properties for different elements that we have in our model. First, I will create the property for the piles. So I will define the pile as the beam element, and I will define the section properties of the piles as it's a solid round section and the diameter is 0.8 meters. So in this way I've defined the pile as a beam element. Then I will define the wall. The wall will be defined as a plane element, as we know that wall is a two-dimensional element, and I will define it as a plate stress or plane stress element. I'll give it a name wall, and the thickness of the wall is 0.2 meters. Now I'll define the interface parameters from pile to soil and pile to raft. So for that I will define the type as pile. I'll give it a name pile to soil, and I'll define the parameters. So what is the shear force between pile and the soil, the shear stiffness modulus, what is the modulus, and then I'll define the normal stiffness modulus. And for the pile tip bearing, I'll define the parameters, what is the tip bearing and the tip spring stiffness. So in this way I can define the interface between pile and soil, and similarly I'll define the interface between raft and piles. Because my piles are going from raft to the soil, so we need to have two different interfaces, first between raft and the piles and the second between piles and the ground. So here now I'm defining the interface between piles and raft, and I'll put in the values, the characteristic values, and I don't want to define the pile tip spring because the pile will be going from raft to the soil and the tip spring will be used in the soil. So in this way I've defined 4 different properties, and now I'll define the attributes which will be assigned to the mesh set for performing analysis. So I'll go to model, property, attribute, and I'll create the attributes for top soil, bottom soil, mid soil, and the different attributes for piles. So I'm defining the attribute for top soil. It is a solid element and it is a sand material that will be applied. Then I'll define the attribute for mid soil, which is sandy gravel, and the bottom soil, which is clay. Now I'll define the solid element for raft, which is a concrete raft material. And now I'll define the attributes for piles, etc. The pile will be a line beam element, so I'll give it a name pile. The element type will be beam, and the material will be concrete, and the property will be pile that I have already defined. Then I'll define the properties for the pile to soil interaction and pile to raft interaction. So I'll again go to line, and the element type will be pile. I'll give it a name pile to soil, and I'll select the property as pile to soil, and I'll define an attribute for pile to raft. So if the pile is in the raft, it will have the property as pile to raft. And this is how I have defined several different parameters for meshing. And now we are ready to do the meshing. Before we do the meshing, let me go back to the presentation and I'll tell you about the different meshing tools that are available in Midas GTS for performing the meshing. So here you can see in Midas GTS we can define the size control. So let's say I want to define the size at different locations for my structure for performing the finite element analysis. I can define the size control at various locations. I can either define the global size for my model, I can define the size at a particular point, I can define the size control along the length, on the face, or on the shape. Then I can use some auto mesh features. If you want to if you want to use the auto mesh feature, you can either auto mesh the solid using the edge auto mesh feature, you can auto mesh the face using the auto mesh face feature, solid can be auto meshed, the planar area can be auto meshed, the 4-edge area can be auto meshed, and then you can convert the mesh from 2D to 3D by using this feature. So I'll be using this feature when I'll be doing the meshing on the structure that we are going to model. But before that, let me quickly cover all the modeling features that are available in Midas GTS. If you want to do the structured meshing in the model, then you can use the map mesh feature. And here, as you can see, you can do the map meshing on the face, solid, K-edge area, K-edge volume. Here you can define the different edges, and the program will perform the meshing automatically as a structured mesh. Similarly, you can do the meshing on 3-node area. You can just select 3 nodes and you can perform the meshing as a structured mesh inside that area, or you can also select the area using the 4 nodes. These are the several mesh operations that you can do in Midas GTS. You can extrude a mesh from 1-dimensional to 2-dimensional, or from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional, as you can see here. This is a 2D mesh and I extruded it in this direction to obtain the 3D meshing. I can revolve a mesh to create the mesh elements along the revolving direction, and I can project the mesh into a target element. Finally, after meshing, we can check the mesh quality, and we can check whether we have certain free faces inside the structure or not by using this feature. This feature is very important because if the meshing is not correct in the model, then you don't expect to obtain the correct result. So this is one of the very important feature and can be used after you do certain meshing. So you are done with the meshing of 3 different layers, then you can check mesh, and then you can do the meshing for further layers, and then you can keep checking the meshes after different layers. You can also use the include exclude mesh set option, and you can fuse 2 different mesh set together, or you can include the specific mesh sets into a single mesh set, and you can rename the mesh set. So now let me go back to the model and I'll show the different meshing features that are available in Midas GTS and that can be used for this kind of a model. First of all, I'll define the element, the size control. For that, I will go to mesh, size control, and I'll define the size along the edge. For selecting the edges, I will select the intersection option, which can be used for define the polyline also. So I'll select the edges in which I want to define the edge control. So I've selected the outer edges and the inner edges of the excavation, and I want to use the number of divisions as 10. So if I see the preview, this is how the meshing will be performed, as you can see. So I'll click on apply, and now I will do the seeding in the elevation, how the seeding should look like in the elevation. So for that, I will again go to mesh and I'll go to size control, and I'll control the size along the edge, and I will select the edge. Again, I'll use the intersection feature. So I've selected these edges, and the number of divisions will be 3 here, as you can see. Then I will select the edges at the bottom here for excavation 2, and the number of intervals will be 5. Sorry, the number of divisions will be 5. This is how it will look like. And finally at the bottom I'm gonna divide it into 2 divisions, as you can see here, and I'll click on apply, and as you can see here I've defined all the edge seats. Now I'm ready to perform the auto meshing. For performing the auto meshing, I'll just activate the part of structure that I want till now. So first of all, I'll go to auto mesh and I'll do the auto mesh for solid. I will select the solid as excavation 1 and the element size will be 1, and I'll set up the attribute as topsoil and I'll name it as excavation 1. And this is how the meshing will look like, and once I click on apply, the meshing has been done. Now I'll do the meshing for excavation 2, which is in the middle soil. So I'll give it a name excav 2 and the attribute will be 2 mid soil. I will select the solid for the excavation 2 and this is how it looks like, and I'll click on apply and the meshing is done. Similarly, I will do the meshing for the raft, which is in the mid soil, and I will select the excavation 3 raft. I can select it from the works tree too, and I'll click on apply. And now I'll do for plate, I will do the meshing and the attribute will be mid soil again, and I'll select the solid for plate here and I click on apply. So in this way I have performed the meshing on the excavations. Why I divided this layer into 3 different excavations is because I want to have a plate and I want to have the raft on the top here, so that's why I have divided them into 3 different layers. But for the initial condition analysis, I would have from here to this location it will be all the mid soil, so that's why I have provided them the attributes of the mid soil. Now I'll do the meshing for the outer periphery of this excavation. So I'll activate the top soil, bottom soil and the mid soil, and I'll again go to auto mesh. I'll do the auto meshing for solids. I'll select the solid as topsoil, give it a name topsoil and give it an element size 3, and I will select the attribute as topsoil, and this is how the meshing will look like. I'll click on apply and the meshing is done. Similarly, I'll do the meshing for mid soil, and this is how the meshing will look like. I'll click on apply and the meshing is done. And thirdly, we will mesh the bottom soil, and I'll select the solid for bottom soil and I'll click on apply, and this is how the meshing will look like. So in this way we have meshed the whole structure, we have meshed all the solids, but now we will have to mesh the piles. So for meshing the piles, I will only activate the piles. So I'll uncheck all the meshes, and as you can see only piles are there. So I'll go to mesh, auto mesh, edge, and I will auto mesh the edge and give them the properties of files, and I'll give them the name files, and this is how the meshing has been done. Finally, I want to install a wall before I do the excavation, so I need to have a mesh structure for the wall, which is a 2D element. So what I'll do, I will just activate these different excavations and I will extract the mesh element out of these to create the meshing for the wall. So I'll go to model, element, and I'll extract element. I'll extract element from the face, so I'll select the 4 faces where I want the wall to be installed. I'll give it an attribute of wall. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't create the attribute for the wall, so let me just go back and create the attribute for wall. So it will be a plain type of element, and I'll give it a name wall. The material will be concrete and the property will be wall. So in this way I've created the element for the wall, the attribute for the wall, and now I can extract the element for the wall. So here I'm selecting the faces and I will assign the attribute as wall attribute and I'll give it a name wall, and once I click OK, the element will be extruded. So here you can see that the 2D meshed element has been extruded and they will be used as the wall element. And now we can create the files, because as of now we have just divided the edge elements into different meshes, but now we want to create a file element out of these meshes. So for that I'll just uncheck this option first. I'll uncheck the mesh object. So I'll uncheck the wall and I'll go to model element and I'll create a file. So as you can see, this option will be used to create the file, and I will select all the 1D elements and I'll assign them the parameter file to raft. So in this way I have created the files, and now I will assign the different parameters for the files which are in the raft. So for that I'll activate the raft solid. So here I'm activating the solid for raft, and I'll go to the front view and I'll go to model element and I'll go to change parameter and I'll select the 1D elements and I will assign file to raft in these 1D elements. So I'll zoom in at these locations. As you can see here, it's too much zoomed in, and I'll select the top elements, the 1D elements, and I'll assign them the file to raft type of attribute. So in this way I've created the meshing for my structure. I created the mesh for the files. I created the files out of the meshed elements, and in this way my meshing is complete. Now let's check whether the mesh is proper or not. So I'll go to the check mesh option and I'll just see the free faces, and let me just deactivate all the mesh sets, and as you can see there are no free faces inside the structure, which means that our meshing is proper and we can expect to obtain precise or correct results. So once the meshing is proper, you need to check whether there are no free faces inside the structure or not. So in this way I have checked whether my meshing is correct or not, and now we can move ahead to the load and boundary definition. Let me talk about the different types of boundaries that we can define in Midas GTS. In Midas GTS we can define the supports to the structure. You can assign the supports in, you can assign the restraint in the X, Y or the Z direction, as you can see here, or you can also assign the constraint to the rotations along the X, Y or the Z direction. You can also define the ground supports. Midas GTS will automatically assign the ground support. You just have to select all the mesh elements, and once you select all the mesh elements, Midas GTS will assign the ground supports on the edges. As you can see here, Midas GTS has assigned the ground supports on the edges and at the bottom. You can define the nodal head as a boundary, and the nodal head value for both steady state and transient state can be defined using this function. So here, this is the definition dialog box for the nodal head. If you want to define a constant nodal head, you can define the value of the nodal head as 1 meter, 2 meters, whatever the nodal head is. And if you want to define a transient state, then you can check on this option function and you can select, you can define how the nodal head changes with time. Similarly, if you want to define the nodal flux, you can define the steady or transient state nodal flux, where you can define what is the flow rate, cubic meters per hour, or you can define the function how the flow changes with time. You can use the seepage phase A seepage phase is a review boundary condition which assigns a total head value to either element edges or solid faces where the flow is outgoing. So here you can define the seepage phase where the flow is outgoing, and you can not only define the steady state seepage phase, but you can define the transient seepage phase also. And once the program performs analysis, it will give you the seepage flow path and the flow quantity. You can also define the seepage flux. So if you want to define the seepage flow or the flux, both are supported. And you can also define the draining condition. The draining condition is applied to the nodes which when it has an excess pore pressure of 0. So if the excess pore pressure is 0, you can define the draining condition, and you can also define the slip surface. If you want to define a virtual failure surface, which can be either polygonal or circular, you can use this feature to define such a surface. Now let me go back to the program and I'll show you the different boundary features that you can use for our model. So here, first of all, I need to apply the ground supports. For that, I'll go to Model, Boundary, Ground Supports, and I will give it a name, Ground Supports. I will select all the mesh sets. So I'll go to the mesh set and I will select all the mesh sets, and once I click on OK, as you can see, the ground supports have been assigned. Now I want to assign supports to my files. I want to restrain the rotation of the files in the Z direction, so there will be no torsional degree of freedom in the files. So for that, I will just activate the file mesh set. Let me deactivate the boundary, and I will assign the constraint, the restraint, that it is not there is no torsion in the files. So for that, I'll go to Model, Boundary, and I'll go to Supports, and I'll restrain the supports in the, so I'll restrain the torsion, and I'll select all the nodes, and once I click on OK, the torsion is restrained in the files. So in this way, I have defined two boundaries to my structure. I defined the ground support and I defined the restraint in torsion in the files. Apart from these, there are certain virtual boundaries that I can use from. So my raft, the mesh element for the raft, will change its properties in the due course of construction stages. So for that, I will create a boundary condition for the raft, and this boundary condition I will activate in one of the construction stages so that I can change the parameters of raft from ground to structure or concrete. So for that, I will just activate the raft here, and let me deactivate all the boundary conditions, and let me deactivate the curve also. We don't need any points now, so I'll just deactivate the curve and the surfaces and the points. And now I'll go to Model, Boundary, and change element attribute for construction stage. So here I can change element attribute for construction stage. I selected the mesh set for raft, and I'll assign the attribute as the raft attribute, which has the concrete material properties. So once I click OK, you can see here the assignment for the change in boundary in construction stage. Let me just deactivate it again. So in this way, I have used the boundary feature to tell the program that this particular mesh set will change its attribute in one of the construction stages. Now let us talk about the different load conditions that are available in Midas GTS and which you can use for analysis of your models. You can define the self-weight. The self-weight can be automatically defined in Midas GTS. Depending on the density and the volume of the solid, the self-weight will be automatically assigned. You can define any virtual force that you want to define in your structure. So here, as you can see, I want to assign a pressure load or a nodal load in the in the model that I can use this option to define that kind of a load. I can define a prescribed moment on the structure. I can define a prescribed displacement. So if I want to simulate a virtual displacement at a location, I can define that using the prescribed displacement feature, and this feature can be used to define the displacement in curve, node, surface, or free face node. The pressure load can be used to define the pressure. So let's say we are talking about the concrete foundations and we are talking about the building foundations, and we don't want to model the building, but we want to simulate the building load as a pressure load on the top of the foundation. So this load can be used to simulate that kind of load. If you're going for the mat foundations, the pile raft foundation, then this kind of pressure load can be used for modeling the building load. And you can also model the line or the element beam loads. You can select the element where you want to define the load, and you can define the load on that element. And you can also define the nodal temperature. If you want to perform the thermal stress analysis, you can define what is the temperature in a particular part of the model, and then Midas GTS will undergo a thermal stress analysis to tell you what is the stress due to the change in temperature at one location to other. And you can also define the temperature gradient. So let's say the temperature decreases as we go inside the ground. You can simulate that behavior. You can define what is the gradient for the temperature, and Midas GTS will undergo a thermal stress analysis to tell you what is the change in stresses due to the temperature gradient. So that was all about the different load applications in Midas GTS. Now let us see in our model what all load can we apply. So let me switch on all the mesh sets here, and first of all we need to have the self weight. The self weight will be the weight in the direction of gravity, so I'll apply a factor of -1 here. So the self weight has been assigned. Now I'll apply a pressure load on the top of the raft. So I will just activate the raft mesh set. As you can see here, this is the raft mesh set, and I will apply a face pressure on the element face, and I will select the element. So here I'm selecting the elements like this. If you see the 3D view, these are the elements that have been selected, as you can see on your computers now, and I can assign the pressure load. So this is how I'm assigning the pressure load, and once I click on OK, as you can see, the pressure load has been assigned. So in this way I have assigned two types of load to my structure. One is a self weight, the other is the pressure load, and you can see in the load definition that what all load has been defined. So this is the load that have been defined. If you want to see the tabular results, the tabular definition of the load, you can see here. Now as you can see, the load set in which I created the pressure is self weight, but I want to change this. So for that what I can do, I can just copy this Excel into sheet into Excel, and you can change the load set, or you can change it here. If I define a load set, let me go to model, load set. I will define a pressure load, and I can create the table here, and I can select the pressure load here, and I can copy it to all other pressure loads. And here you can see that now I have the pressure load inside the pressure load set. So this is how I have distinguished between the pressure load and the self weight, because I want to assign the pressure load and the self weight in individual construction stages. Now I'll give you a very brief idea on how construction stages can be modeled in Midas GTS. The next session that we have for Midas GTS, the next training that we have after 2 weeks, is will deal with the construction stage analysis and seepage analysis, and also the slope stability analysis in construction stage analysis. So I'll take into details how you can model the construction stages in that training, but here I'll just give you a very brief idea of how you can model the construction stages. So for modeling the construction stages, we have a stage definition wizard, or we can define the stages manually using the define construction stage option here. So I can click on new to define a new stage. Let's say I want to define excavation 1, then, or let's say the initial ground condition will be defined first. So the initial ground condition will have the bottom soil, excavation 1, excavation 2, excavation 3 raft, for plate, mid soil, and the top soil will have all of them. In the load will have the self weight, and the boundaries will have the ground supports. So this is how the first stage will be made. In the second stage I want to do the excavation. So let's say I want to install the wall. So I'll activate the wall and I'll deactivate excavation 1 because that element will be pulled out of the model. The excavation will be performed, and I want to so this is the second stage, and let us see how the stage looks like. So I'll go to construction stage, I'll go to simulate construction stage, and we have two stages here. So you can see that in first stage we have all the mesh sets, and in second stage we have excavated the first mesh set, the excavation 1, and the walls appear. So if you uncheck all of them, if you just check the walls, you can see that we have the wall in the second stage, but in the first stage there is no wall. So this is how you can model the construction stages. It's very intuitive. You just have to activate or deactivate certain options, as you can see here. If you activate them, they will appear in the construction stage. If you deactivate them, they will not appear in the construction stage. And since we are doing the excavation, we can activate and deactivate the elements simultaneously to simulate the construction schedule of the excavation. And we can also add the excavation 3 raft boundary condition when the concrete for the raft is poured down or when the concrete for the raft is installed. So here, whenever the raft excavation 3 raft changes the boundary, changes the property from soil to concrete, we can activate this boundary. So this is all about the construction stage modeling in Midas GTS. As I said before, I'll be taking this thing in more details in the second training session, which will be after 2 weeks. So this is how we can model excavation in Midas GTS. The first session was mainly for mesh generation, geometric modeling, and the load application. So I think that after this training session you will be able to model any kind of structure in Midas GTS. So now let us talk about the results that we can obtain for this kind of a model. So let me go to the Midas GTS. Let me open up pre-analyzed model. So this is a pre-analyzed model that I have for the excavation, that model that we just prepared. And in this model I have 6 construction stages, as you can see. The first stage is installation. This is the initial stage, initialization, and then we have installed the wall, then we perform the excavation step 1, we excavate it second, third part, then we install the piles, and then the raft and the load will be activated. So for obtaining the results, we have to go to the post data here, and we can go to individual construction stages and we can obtain the results. So as you can see here, if I want to obtain the stresses in the first stage, these are the different stresses in the first stage. So let us go to the second stage and see how the stresses changes when the excavation first is performed. So you can see that this is how the stresses appear in the solids. These are the different stresses. This is the vertical stress, as you can see how it increases. If you want to obtain the stresses, the displacements, then this is how you can see how the displacement changes. If you want to see the deformed shape, you can check on this option and you can select the deformed shape, and you can change the relative deformation. Let me check the So in this way you can check the deformed shape and how the deformed shape changes with different construction stages. If you want to see the results in the wall, then you can go to the 2D element stresses, and this is how the stresses appear in the wall. Now I just want to see the wall, so for that I will just activate the mesh set for the wall, and this is how the stresses appear in the wall. If I want to see the stresses or forces inside the files, then I can go to the 1D element forces and I can select, let's say I want to see the axial force in the files. I can just activate the file mesh set so that I can see how the files look like. So this is the axial force in the files. You can obtain the axial force, you can obtain the stresses, you can obtain the strains, etc. So whatever quantity you want to obtain, it can be obtained. This is how the stress varies in the files. So in this way you can obtain certain results in Midas GTS. Now let me show you some other result features, some other peculiar result features of Midas GTS. If you want to see how the deformation changes with time, you can check on the displacement and you can go to post command, post data, and you can simulate how the construction changes, how the excavation is being done, and how the displacement changes or the deformation changes. Similarly, you can do the same thing with the stresses, with the strains. So let us see how the strain looks like if I change the construction state. So this is how the strain looks like inside the structure. Let's say I want to see the displacement or the stresses. Let's say I want to see the stresses inside the structure. So I'll go to 3D stresses, I'll obtain the stress profile, and let's say I want to go inside the structure and see how the results look like. For that I can go to the slice plane and I can slice the plane in any direction that I want. So as you can see, this is how the stress changes, inside. So you cannot see it from the outer boundary, so you can use the slice plane feature, and this is how the stresses appear. You can also use the clipping plane. The clipping plane keeps the other part of the solid. As you can see here, it will keep the solid at the back of it, and it will show you the stresses at the location of the clipping plane. If you want to obtain the stress at a particular mesh node, then you can obtain the mesh edge. So this is how the mesh edge looks like. And let's say I want to obtain what is the stress at this location. For that I can go to result and I can go to the probe result feature, and I can click on this node, and there will be a tag with this node which will tell you what will be the stress at this location. And you can also see the tabular value of the stress, x, y, and the z coordinate, and what is the value. So in this manner you can click on multiple nodes and you can define what is the stress profile along several nodes. If you want to obtain the isosurfaces, you can go to the isosurface option here, and let me uncheck the mesh edge, and this is the isosurface for the stress. As you can see here, this is for the stresses, and you can specify the value where you want to obtain the iso stresses, for what value do you want to obtain. And once I click on apply, you can see that how the isosurface looks like. So you can define what is the value for the isosurface that you want, and Midas GTS will give you the isosurface plots. Let's say I want to see the deformation and I want to obtain the isosurface for the deformation. Then I can specify what deformation am I interested in, and Midas GTS will give me the isosurface plots for the deformation. So as the deformation increases, As you can see, it will be limited to the base of the excavation, and this is how I can obtain the isosurface plots. If you want to obtain the results in the mirror mode, you can go to the mirror mode option here, and you can obtain the results in the mirror mode option. Also, there are certain options to choose from the result menu here. You can obtain the local direction force sum. Here you can specify the location where you want to obtain the local direction force sum, and whichever location that you specify, you can select a plane and you can specify the location, and when you have obtained the plane, it will show you the results for that plane. In this model I haven't defined any plane, so let me quickly check if we have a plane for defining the local direction force sum. So here I am adding a plane. Let's say I want to add this plane. So I have defined one plane here, and when I click on plot, the local direction force sum will be plotted. So here this is an arbitrary plane which is not inside the structure, but in a way, by using this feature, you can obtain the local direction force sum, and the program will give you what is the summation of stresses, what is the summation of bending moment, what is the summation of shear force along a particular plane. Finally, talking about the legend on the right hand side, this legend, you can change the legend if you want. This is the legend will show you the different as you can see, this is the deformation, and the legend will show you the color associated with a particular displacement. And if you want to change the legend, you can always change the legend by going into the options of Midas GTS, and if you want to reverse the color profile, you can also do that. So this is how you can obtain the results in Midas GTS. The result tables can be obtained, and there are certain different features for CPage result that we'll be talking about in the next training session. And as you can see, you can obtain the results for equivalent 1D analysis, for time history analysis, for slope stability analysis, for vibration mode shape. If you want to obtain the vibration mode shape, you can obtain the vibration mode shape also. And if you want to save the result image file, you can click on this option, and the result image file will be saved. So this is how you can obtain the results. If you want to obtain the table, just right click and click on table, and it will show you, let's say I want to obtain the table for these many nodes, and once I click on OK, the table will be obtained. So if you want to obtain Excel compatible table, you can just right click and go to table, and the results in the tabular format will be plotted. So this completes the first session of the online training for Midas GTS, and I hope that with this session you understood uh, basics of finite element analysis and how you can apply the finite element analysis in Midas GTS. Now if you guys have any question, you can ask your question at this point of time.